he likes to pretend like he's connected to regular people, but he's really not. So yes,
he is Fredo. Oh my God, that's so true. I do think of him as Fredo. I
would say if you want to set him off, if you want to piss him off, just call him Fredo.
Oh,
that's
hilarious.
the easiest way to get him upset.
I would. I'd be like, pipe down, Fredo.
So Fredo had an opinion. Actually, it's not even an opinion. It's more of a question. He doesn't fully understand why Luigi is so popular. So we'll see what he has to say.
For what he did. Why? Let's get the answer from one of them. Jamie Peck joins us now. Thank you for taking the opportunity.
Thank you for having me.
Help me understand. Why is it a beautiful thing? Why do you support him assassinating another human being in cold blood?
So I was definitely joking a little bit, obviously drawing a comparison between what Donald Trump said about himself and the sort of explosion, this appetite, this excitement for the conversation that Luigi Mangione started. But I do think to call this an act of terrorism is an insult to the intelligence of the American people. Terrorism is something designed to strike fear into the hearts of non-combatant civilians, right? The general population. Nobody but a tiny class of CEOs has been made to live in fear by Luigi's actions, but nearly everybody knows what it's like to live in fear of having a necessary medical claim denied, the fear of having your life ruined or potentially ended by a stack of medical bills. And I think in a system with so much violence that's directed from the top down, it should come as no surprise when violence begins to boomerang back from the bottom up onto the 1%. Also, I would like to remind you on the subject of terrorism, nearly 3,000 Americans lost their lives on 9/11, right? This is the largest terrorist attack this country has ever seen. An estimated 190,000 people are murdered each year by our broken healthcare system.
That's real terrorism.
There it is. And there it is, because they do not consider austerity and denial of care as violence. They don't consider that violence. So to them, this is so shocking. It's out of nowhere. He was killed in cold blood. He was not doing anything, because they don't view that as violence. And unfortunately for them, the rest of us seem to.
And Spam is right. Brian Thompson murdered more people than bin Laden did.
Absolutely.
But as Bill Burr points out, because the way they do it, it's considered clean. They're not actually pulling the trigger, but they are absolutely.
And that is why, and this is why, and as someone who did criminal defense, and I've said this before, like there's honor amongst thieves. This is something that to me is extremely courageous. This is extremely courageous. Now, granted, he might be someone who lives in pain, has nothing to lose, isn't thinking of it that way. I don't know. But
he's had a chronic back problem.
He was willing to get his hands dirty, unlike someone like Brian Thompson, who hides behind a desk and is a coward in how he kills people. This is somebody who just did it.
Yeah.
And there is something about that is like, yeah, because it's what everyone's been thinking. And if they weren't, they wouldn't be having this response to him.
And this is exactly why, especially now, you are never, ever putting the cat back in the bag on the issue of universal health care. This will do more to forward the movement towards a single payer system than anything AOC Pelosi could ever have done by getting on the oversight committee. Just pointing that out.
Well, and that's why when they say things like violence doesn't work, this isn't the answer, I beg to differ. I think that this is kind of turning out to be the answer, because we've already gotten more attention paid to healthcare since this happened than we had in like 3 years.
Absolutely.
So to say that this doesn't work is just patently untrue.
No, the only time that I can honestly say that there was real momentum for single payer was right after Bernie won the Michigan primary, and then he did the debate with Hillary in Miami, and it really centered on that issue. And it became clear that without the chicanery, that if he were able to have won, that would have been real momentum towards at least a public option. But since then, there's been nothing in almost a decade And now all of a sudden you have real momentum. And this time it's different because, as you've often pointed out, this is coming from the outside, not the inside.
I know.
The people on the outside are telling the people on the inside, you better fucking pay attention because we're sharpening our knives and forks now. And we're getting ready to eat your ass. That's what they're going to do. That's what's going to happen if they.
I don't like violence. I like the natural and logical consequences of people's behavior to occur. So when somebody is constantly committing violence, the only way that that's going to stop is when it comes back at them. That's karma. I don't do violence. I don't raise hands to anybody. I am not a proponent of violence. I am a proponent of the logical and natural consequences of people's behaviors. And that's really what this particular situation is. So I don't generally, I'm a supporter of violence. I'm not.
Neither am I. But it can certainly be understood. We'll continue.
That is the equivalent of 52 9/11s worth of deaths every year. Every single week, another 9/11 happens. So I got to ask, who is the more prolific terrorist in this equation?
Well, first of all, as you may know, Jamie, terrorism is a specific legal standard, right? There's no question that Luigi did what he did in furtherance of a political agenda.
No
he
idea what
said
that means.
Okay, so I don't see this as a question of fact or law. It's about the policy behind it. What I don't understand, and you are somebody who in your positions is constantly trying to embrace the humanity of situations, right? I've been looking at why you support what you do with what's happening in the Middle East conflict. To me, this seems to be anathema to this. You know, nothing within a system gets changed by violence.
I don't know that.
How can you
I think our entire world has gotten everything done by violence. Our entire species is based on violence. The fact that he would say that is so absurd to me.
Well, what it also speaks to, and this is why having the overreach of charging him as a terrorist is proving one thing to the masses, is that violence actually scares the shit out of people in power because they don't know how to defend themselves. They're also the last people. Again, I've always said the privileged liberal class are the most dangerous people in society because they are the first ones to say yes to war and no to defense of the people.
And I agree. The people who deny healthcare are violent serial killers. Agreed. And that is where we need to. And as long as we keep we need to create that narrative more and more.
We are. We're doing our best. All right, let's continue.
Yeah, we're having a conversation, but we're not having the right one because the healthcare industry now has high ground because they've been victimized by this chooch. This isn't how we get insurance to be better, by putting a bullet in somebody's head. Why would you get behind that?
Spoken like a privileged.
I've never advocated violence as a tactic for change coming from
You're celebrating the guy.
People that I organized with. This was a lone wolf act of violence on the part of Luigi Mangione, and it seems to have started a huge conversation among everybody about the violence, the death, and the murder caused by this broken healthcare system. Again, 9/11 every single week, indefinitely, until someone puts a stop to this madness. So we are here really to advocate for the thousands and thousands of people who have spoken up against an unjust and violent healthcare system, which is not a fact of nature.
Jamie, that's 100% fine. And by the way, it's not new, okay? People have been crusading against insurance companies, but there's no question we haven't gotten changes to the system that are necessary. No question. You're talking to one of them right now. I look this old because I am old, and I've been covering that system for over 25 years. And almost we have not heard yet as to whether or not.
Look at how, did you see how cool that mug was? That Duncan mug, deny, defend,
and depose.
Yeah. And, I got to say, if you are at a point now, and this is the beautiful thing about what has happened, like if Cuomo is commenting on this and he is not immediately saying, well, honestly, the only solution that's going to solve this for everybody is a single payer system, then you are continuing to defend a system that is killing people.
He
And
can't wrap his head around this. That's what it looks like. Like he's like one of those where it does not compute. Like they cannot wrap their heads around this because they are so in a bubble.
Yeah. No, that's it. That is it. There is nothing else to it. That's why when he did his stunt on CNN a number of years ago, where he came out of the basement,
He was such an idiot. Oh my God.
I mean, my God, he was coming out of a $5 million home in the Hamptons, for God's sake. It's just that disconnect is very real. Like it's real. They honestly see themselves as better than the average person. Just like Israel sees themselves as better than everybody. Israelis see themselves as superior people. And that's why they're allowed to get away with mass genocide. That's it.
Yeah.
That's true. And he never would. Why would he? Not with that fucking salary. That's what it comes down to. That's why Clarissa Ward makes up phony war stories about prisoners.
But what's so fucked up about that is there's probably plenty of real ones.
Of course. But again, it's about fulfilling a narrative. That is the essence of why they have to do it this way. I'm just impressed. Listen, if there's one thing I can credit Cuomo for, it's having Jamie come on the podcast. That in itself actually means something. And I'm going to reach out to Jamie and see if she'll come on. Because she's kind of been out, she's been kind of like away from this stuff for a while.
I was going to say, I feel like I haven't seen her in like years.
Well, she left Sam like a while back, and then she just kind of went underground, so to speak. I mean, let's be honest, Jen. Emma Vigeland basically replaced her. Like, that's essentially what happened, if we're being honest. So we'll finish this out.
Luigi is going to accept these funds. If he doesn't need them for whatever reason, they're going to be distributed to other people who are facing political charges. But I think in this
Why
country,
don't you distribute
money is
the
a
money?
form of speech.
Well, no,
And we
listen,
are
I'm not saying you
advocating
can't
for-
do it. I'm not saying you can't do it, Jamie. I'm saying, why would you do it? You have the right to do it. I'm saying, why is it right? Why don't you take the money and give it to people who've gotten screwed by insurance companies?
He really doesn't get it.
I think I need to refocus once again onto the murder and the violence inherent in this system that so many people all across the political spectrum, across lines of political difference, conservatives, liberals, Democrats, and Republicans are all excited and energized to talk about this and to have
Raise money for the action groups that go after the insurance companies. I'm with you. This is not about the insurance companies. That's my problem, Jamie. I had you on not for sport. I want you to understand that I don't think that the energy that you're putting towards backing this guy is getting us to a better place with the problems of the system.
What a sanctimonious
That's my point.
trick. That's why he had her on, was to set her straight. He had her on to set her straight.
But she's destroying him. And on top of everything else,
he's such an idiot.
More than anything, listen, he didn't say anything ridiculously stupid until he decided to say, well, you could use that defense fund money to help people suffering in this healthcare state. What, $150,000?
Right. Who's that helping? He's just so obtuse. Like, this is just absurd to me.
And you think he's obtuse on purpose, or he really is this? He's like this.
I think, first of all, I think he is Fredo. I really do. I think Chris is not the sharpest tool in the shed. He's definitely not the favored son. He definitely, I would think Andrew would have had to off him a while ago. But the point, he's just getting too much trouble.
So what you're basically saying is that Mario is Vito, Andrew is Michael, and Chris is Fredo, and basically Andrew.
I'm very certain that's the hierarchy. But this guy, he's never been a rocket scientist to begin with.
Not at all. He comes off like a privileged jock who somehow got a microphone put in front of him for a career. And he is a Nepo baby. But he tries
to portray himself. Well, this is what's so funny is I feel like he tries to portray himself like he's some Italian from the streets. And
that's why he reacted the way he did to a guy much smaller than him who got called Fredo.
He thinks he's all that. But it's so funny because he's such a silver spoon. I don't know. It's interesting. Like he somehow really thinks he's like some badass Italian from the hood.
Yeah. No, there is no question that, we'll finish this out. But Jamie, this is, again, credit
You could
to
see
her.
she thinks he's a moron.
Well, yes, but credit to her for not allowing him to drive the narrative in another direction. She's been crystal clear, and this is why she is the missing piece and why Sam Cedar's show has never been the same since she left.
Use the money you raised for the people who need it, not this guy.
Well, I believe we really need to treat the causes of problems rather than merely the symptoms. And I think if you want to know what kinds of tactics I do advocate for, I think we need a mass movement. Change comes from the bottom up,
but not a bunch of
the top
Luigis.
down. And I'm talking about mass resistance to medical debt. If everybody burns their medical bills in front of the health
But
insurance
not like
company
this.
offices en
That's
masse,
different.
Not like
that's
this.
going to create change. And we're just trying
That's
to figure
different.
out how to use this moment of of popular excitement that has been touched off by, yes, a violent act that I would not advocate for as a tactic if it were up
You're
to
raising
me,
money for that.
but it happened. And we're trying to figure out how to ride that wave and move this conversation forward into mass action that can really make a difference.
Well, listen, I'm here for it. I always have been, but we're covering it. I would love for that to be the discussion. But as long as this guy is glamorized, it is a distraction. It is not a vehicle for focus.
I don't agree.
You know who? It's funny because you've often brought up my uncle. My uncle would love to have his way with someone like Chris Cuomo.
But let me tell you something, all right? I'm going to take you out of my corniche.
You talk about
It's like, listen, Fredo, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take you out for a ride in my corniche. We're going to go down to the docks, and I'm going to show you what it's like to really be in this.
Explain to him how things work.
Oh, absolutely.
I need to explain some things to you.
What's amazing is that his father, Mario Cuomo, he really did interact with the mob. Like Mario was from the streets. Like,
but somebody who took care of his people.
That's
and
true.
Rewarded his people. And the people, I actually dated someone who's both of his parents worked under the administration. His father worked like directly with the governor he was something in the finance department, whatever. But like he really did take care of his people. And
Mario Cuomo,
there was an honor about him. And I'm not saying that I think that there was nothing going on there. Who knows?
No,
But
Mario Cuomo. No, remember, Mario Cuomo was the one person in the Democratic Party that they actually thought could have run against Reagan in '84 and could have actually been competitive in some capacity. But Cuomo made it very clear that he was never going to do it because he's got too much dirt. Like the things that he had to do in the 70s and 80s with the Italian mafia.
I just don't think of him the same way I thought of Andrew.
No,
And
I actually think that Mario cared about the people.
I do,
I
I don't think he was. I think that Andrew was a bully, and I think he
100%.
acted like a bully, and yeah.
I'm a New Yorker. I am here because I actually am from New York and I care about the people. I'm not a Nepo baby. You may think I am. But that's really Fredo. That's my little brother.
Fredo.
My
But he's so
confused. Fredo, not me. I'm Michael.
I mean, definitely by the time the genetic pool got down to Chris, they had run out of all the good stuff. But
that's for sure. Well, actually, I take it back. In a way, Andrew is not Michael. He's Sonny.
Okay, that might be. Okay, I could see that. There is no Michael. That's the point. The Cuomos have no Michael.